Good morning to everyone from a sunny south of France. I live towards the west of southwest of France near Bordeaux. As mentioned in my introduction, I've been in IT and around IT for over 20 years on IT security, helping our SaaS customers understand all the issues around the context of cloud technologies. So it's a great honor to be here today. It would be nicer to be in person, to be standing on the stage talking to you directly, but that's one of the things that's come out of the last 12 months with the COVID, with the pandemic that we've been in. Whilst it would be nice to be on stage, we're using Zoom, we're using remote technologies, we're using the cloud on a daily basis. And would it be nice to be going back to physical conferences? Would it seem strange? Or would it seem as strange as you're doing administration, filling in paper forms instead of pre-filled electronic forms? So there are things that our citizens have got used to doing over the last 12 months that we now have a duty to take forward and to help them and to deliver such services as we move into a post-pandemic world. So what are those expectations? Citizens have expectations that they want efficient services. Government has expectations that they want to run efficient services. Put the two together and we need a knowledge economy, and we need to be making decisions that are fact-based. But in order to make decisions that are fact-based, we need to have the facts. So we need to be getting the data and the facts from the citizens, and we need the government to be able to put together, have the systems that are able to compile that data and to put those facts together to make those decisions. In preparing for this session, I was talking to some of my colleagues from Kuwait, and they were telling me about some of the technologies that were deployed over the last 12 months, such as being able to book a time slot for going shopping, or the Schlonik app that we've just been talking about. So the question is, if we're talking about improving public services, if you can make an application that can enable you to buy toilet paper, surely it must be possible to make an application or to make a platform that can help streamline administrative services such as planning permissions or anything else like that. The question though is, how can you build these applications whilst making them safe, available and reliable? So how I'm going to structure this presentation is in the next slide, I will be looking at cloud delivery models. I'll be looking at the different types of clouds, have a very quick look at cybersecurity and data privacy, and then bring that all together under the cloud compliant cloud umbrella and factors that you need to take into account. Quick pause. I do apologize. I am a Brit, which means to say I do speak English fairly quickly. I apologize if I'm going too fast, but I will happily take questions at the end once we've gone through. Cloud delivery models. So hopefully you will have all come across these different delivery models at some point. At the lowest level of the cloud delivery model, it's the infrastructure partners. These could be simple data center providers. They could be infrastructure providers who provide the servers, maybe with pre-configured operating systems. They form the basis. They're the bottom lowest value level of the chain, but they're also the most crucial level. They have to provide reliable services. Otherwise, everything stops working. Take the example in France, where millions of websites went offline over the last few weeks because of a fire at an OVH data center. So the infrastructure partners have to be reliable, have to provide the right services. Sitting on top of the infrastructure providers, you have two types of AAS providers. You have the platform as a service and you have the software as a service providers. Platform as a service is more like the Lego type providers. They provide you with applications. If you take an example of SAP, we have the SAP Cloud Platform or the Business Technology Platform, where we provide access to HANA databases, to NetWeaver services, to chatbots, artificial intelligence tools, data transformation tools. Everything is there for you to pull it all together and build your application on the platform. Some customers use it just for integrating data between systems. Others build full applications that are then integrated into the back end to provide them to their audiences. Software as a service is slightly different. Software as a service is a pre-built, pre-configured application. We have many examples within SAP, such as SuccessFactors for our HR end-to-end processes, Concur for our travel and expense management processes. So these are applications that are designed for a purpose. They are pre-built, they're pre-configured. They can be adjusted to your requirements, but there's no custom coding, there's no custom development being implemented on these platforms. So it's intended to be shared across multiple customers, typically in a multi-tenant approach, so that you can then maximize your usage of that particular application. And then at the top, we have the business networks. These could be other SaaS or PaaS providers who are plugging into the software as a service or the platform as a service providers to bring added value. I've given an example here, especially in the SAP world, of OpenText, who plug into SAP applications and provide additional functionality for those applications and for your processes. Just as a very quick reminder, what is a cloud and different types of cloud? The main types of cloud that we know, well, we could start with on-premise. On-premise is the traditional way of hosting servers, of hosting applications, hosting data. So within your own data centers, where you are fully responsible for managing all aspects of security, access to the data centers, cooling, power, all of that, as well as managing the deployment of your applications. Public cloud is typically where SaaS applications will sit. So these are accessible via the internet, via a browser, and are typically multi-tenant. In public cloud, the application owner is responsible for managing everything from A to Z within that environment. And then you have private cloud. Private cloud is suitable for some applications, some cloud applications. It's about taking a cloud application and segregating it just for you. So it could be, for instance, taking S4 HANA installation and having it running in a private cloud. So you get the benefits of, say, a monthly subscription, of someone else managing the security, of someone else managing the way the application is running, monitoring it, configuring it, providing you with support, whilst having the advantage of that data being segregated and fully protected, because it's running in a dedicated environment specific to you. Then in your organization, you might have multiple private clouds, but you might also have private clouds that are linked to public clouds. So you might have processing of certain types of information happening within the private cloud. And then within the public cloud, you have additional processing of information that has a lower classification level, and so can be happily processed within that public cloud. This enables you to benefit from economies of scale, and in order to get the right best value out of the services. There is a smaller but slowly developing area as well, which is on-premise cloud. This is a very expensive approach, but is used in some cases, especially by government agencies, where it's just not possible to put applications into a private cloud, but where these applications are needed, and so there are ways to be able to build that cloud into your existing physical environment, whilst having the application owner remotely managing that particular application for you from your data center. When we talk about cloud applications, one key area that needs to be accounted for is cybersecurity and data privacy. Now, these are two different areas. Cybersecurity is about protecting the data against unauthorized access. Data privacy, on the other hand, is about protecting personal data and making sure that personal data is used correctly. So both of them have their controls and their processes and their policies that are involved in protecting that data. Some of those will overlap, but others can be very specific. And if you look at the responsibilities, you may have the cybersecurity responsible underneath the technical organization, underneath the chief technical officer. You might have the data privacy under the data privacy officer, who might even be in the HR department. So one of the questions that then comes up is, well, why would you go for a cloud-based solution? As we've seen over the last 12 months, the applications that have been deployed without a cloud-based approach, they would never have been deployed as quickly as they were. If you think back to how long the old school way of developing applications, so let's take 12 months to decide where we're going to host this, what data center we're going to put this in. Let's work out what servers we need. Let's work out how we're going to deploy the application. Well, you've already gone 18 months into the project before you've even started to deploy or get any data into the system. So cloud has that great advantage of speed of deployment. It can have lower upfront costs through not having to go out and procure servers and data center space. On the other hand, on-premise still has the advantage on things like data sovereignty and skills sovereignty. Now here, what we're talking about is maybe having data that is under your control, that is staying in country, that is only being accessed by your nationals. And those nationals have, your citizens, those citizens have the skills, have the knowledge about the applications that are being used. So if there was a situation where the technology was being blocked, embargoed by the country where it's written, you've still got the skills to be able to keep those applications running. You're not going to be held hostage by a foreign power. So cloud and on-premise both have advantages, but when we're talking about trying to streamline processes, it's key to look at where your data is, what your data should be, look at your data classification, and then decide what data can be processed in the cloud and what can be processed on-premise. Once you've gone through that process, that analysis, you can then start looking at the compliant cloud. The compliant cloud ensures that cloud computing services meet compliance requirements. So what have we got in there? Well, I've just mentioned about data classification, understanding where that data has to be stored, understanding who has to be able to access that data. And if you're using then a provider to deliver those services for you, you're going to want to make sure you've got comprehensive contracts in place. You're going to want to make sure you've got independent audits of those suppliers, whether it is they providing, say, SOC 1, SOC 2, or ISO certifications, or whether you are auditing them. You need to understand what steps they're taking to protect your data. And you need to make sure that they've got an overall solid approach, solid architecture that you're going to be able to rely on. Now, in some cases, you might have an application that's only got a 6-month life cycle. So you can reduce some of the levels of protections that you're going to need. But if you're building for the next 10 years, you want to make sure you've got a solid foundation in place right from the beginning. So when you're talking about a compliant cloud, when we talk about a compliant cloud at SAP, this is what we're thinking about. We're thinking about how can we provide you with that solid application, that solid platform that you can build on, that you can rely on, and that you can count on for the years to come. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for your attention. And I welcome at this point any questions or feedback that you may have.